to the Bronx Journal. According to the United Nations, human trafficking is considered the second largest and fastest growing illegal industry in the world, with most of its victims being women and children. The New York chapter of the National Association of Hispanic Nurses recently hosted its second annual conference at Beth Israel Medical Center, and one of the issues they tackled was human trafficking. Joining us now are several members of the Hispanic Nurses Association, President Dan Suarez, registered nurse Caroline Ortiz, and Associate Specialist on Sexual Assault, Nasi Tejada. Thank you. It's a pleasure having all three of you on the show. Just start from the beginning for us. What is sex trafficking or human trafficking?
Well, it's an interesting phenomenon. People think that sex trafficking, human trafficking, is something that happens in third world nations, not in the United States. Just recently, about 3 years ago, we started to focus in on this issue and how it affects the Hispanic community. With the majority of our focus was strictly bringing awareness and education to nurses, and let alone the community at large. So while we were involved in this process, we were learning ourselves how this phenomena is just rampant throughout our country.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a business.
Yeah, it's a business.
Human trafficking is a business of vulnerable men, children, and women, primarily women and children, as you said earlier, into forced sexual labor and or servitude.
It's a form of slavery.
Exactly. And where through coercion, threats, these people are subjected to committing these acts for individuals that are making money off of them. Recently, there's been cases in New York City where they have found individuals locked up in people's prominent homes in rich communities that were never allowed to leave the home because they were enslaved to that person. Our youth is also vulnerable in the streets of New York. Through Dan earlier, we were talking about instances within our high schools, young females that are lured, enticed,
How? But how do they get involved in this?
People say, well, where were her parents? I mean, it's simple. It starts off with let's say, for instance, a junior high student. She finds a love interest. He happens to be older. She's 14 or 15. He's 18, 19. Her first love. All of a sudden, a gift of an iPod, a cell phone. Oh, use it whenever you can. Call me. You can use it. A gift, all of a sudden, infatuation turns to a sexual encounter. Now she feels like this is the man of my dreams. He gives me gifts. He takes me out to dinner. My parents don't know about this, but I'm in love. And all of a sudden, that love interest becomes, it doesn't matter if it's the MS-13, the Bloods, the Crips, the Latin King or Nietos, it doesn't matter what gang. There's an influence out there that's trying to take our youth and use them for business opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So Caroline, how do nurses get involved with victims of human trafficking?
Well, I would think the primary thing is very elementary, very basic. It's awareness. I think that when I first was part of the Hispanic Nurses Association and started hearing more and more about sex trafficking, my initial thought was faraway lands, people being imported into the United States, never thinking that it was in Queens. It happened from one state to the other within the same country. So it all starts with awareness, and it's something that unfortunately nursing programs, we're not there yet. We're not there in getting the word out.
Where do you come in contact with them, with the victims, the nurses, at hospitals, at clinics? Or how does it happen that you get to meet these people?
Well, you also have to understand that these are individuals that are afraid in speaking to anyone about their situation. Mm-hmm. If you were to think of an international human trafficking situation, you have someone that's been lured, enticed, offered a job, an opportunity to come to the United States. They don't know where they are. They come to a country, a nation, a city that they don't know the language, they don't know anyone here, and the only person that they have contact with is the person that's controlling them.
We always hear
So-
about human trafficking in terms of like going abroad, like these gangs recruiting women
Yes.
and taking them against their will from South America maybe
Right.
to Europe or somewhere else in the world.
Absolutely.
But they're coming here too, is what you're
They're-
telling me. They're being brought here.
In the United States, there's about 20,000 cases of human trafficking that are known to the authorities. As per the United Nations, there's 7 billion global cases of human trafficking.
And who's doing this? Is it like an organized crime
absolutely.
operation?
What you call an organized crime could be anything from a neighborhood gang
Yeah.
to an international gang. There have been references to the Russian mob on how they control a lot of the drugs and prostitution that comes into America. But even just one case in California, in Texas, where a stewardess who was aware and became a little concerned when she saw 22 women as young as 9 years old to as old as 21 on a plane coming into Texas in a small little airport.
All together, all these
All
women.
together with 4 chaperones.
Big shipment.
Big shipment with no one knowing where they were going. When the stewardess asked each individual stewardess where they were going, one said they were coming to learn English, the other one was going to college. 9-year-old going to college.
Wow.
So she became alerted, notified the pilot. The pilot notified the authorities. Waiting for that plane, the authorities interviewed them. A nurse examiner went on board and interviewed them. And that's what we're trying to make the public aware, that we need more Hispanics, nurses, to become nurse examiners, become aware of sexual abuse that's happening right in our own backyard.
So that's what you're doing as an association, is making your membership aware that they should be looking for these victims?
Absolutely. The lack of awareness isn't necessarily an apathy. It's you don't know the questions to ask. Should you find something out, then what? Then what is the next step? It's getting those links together and being confident enough in being able to help someone, or in this case, the group, so that you can start probing and start asking the questions, and you know where to go from there.
And
Give them the resources, that they need.
So how did this idea of creating this effort by the association, of course the association has been around, I'm sure, for a few years now,
Absolutely.
but how does the association become involved in this issue?
It actually was in our readings and understanding of what was happening out there, and we just started to work on somehow finding out, one, how many nurse examiners did we have? After that incident in Texas, I said, how many nurse examiners do we have, Latinos or Latinas, in New York? 1. And I said, well, our mission then has to be to bring more into the fold. And coincidentally, the synergies again worked. Nancy reached out to me, and I'm telling her what I want to do. And
I'm in need of Spanish-speaking nurses. And that is because the Office for Violence Against Women has given a grant to the Westchester Hispanic Coalition to create a sexual assault program for Spanish-speaking individuals, Latinos in the community. And we are looking to create the first Spanish speaking hotline, where they're going to answer the phone, hola, ¿cómo está? ¿Cómo le puedo ayudar? Rather the prompt of, para español, toque número dos.
Right.
Because there aren't enough resources in the Spanish-speaking community. There aren't enough nurses providing the rape kit exams. We have doctors in ERs that are not trained in doing rape kits, and they're reading the instruction, re-victimizing the person that's just been assaulted. So we paired up because there's a lack of nurses, and my program is seeking those nurses, as well as hotline counselors and advocates, and just making the community aware. We're actually looking to this taboo and this subject that nobody wants to talk about and realize that it's happening, to come to the surface and address the concerns.
Why is it a taboo subject in the Hispanic community?
I think, again, it's awareness and educating them, because one, a lot of the Hispanic population currently are coming from outside this country, where in their country maybe the man was in charge of the household, and the wife stayed home and took care of the kids and family. Now here, they are finding them almost on equal par, just to sustain themselves and survive. Now the husband doesn't dominate. Now the frustrations become more prevalent, and now the frustration becomes into physical abuse, into abuse and the drinking, and all of a sudden it becomes a vicious cycle where the children and the wife is fearful to even go home. So this is something that we felt we needed to get involved and bring this in awareness. We're not going to be able to solve all the problems out there with just bringing awareness and education, but we want to make a difference.
Is New York a major port for...
New York City's JFK is the central hub in the United States.
For coming in or going out, or both?
For coming into the United States.
For human trafficking?
For human trafficking.
Now, let me throw a scenario at you, because in the Hispanic community, we also have a lot of undocumented immigrants, and a lot of people who sympathize with them, who do not want to turn them over to the police, right, who may have a house down the street where they suspect there's 2 or 3 undocumented immigrants living. How do you tell the difference between those who are just here trying to make a living and work, and those who are being held as slaves, and when do you call the cops and turn them in?
Well,
is that difficult, or?
It's not a matter of identifying them. It's an opportunity that that victim has in reaching out and recognizing when that person is reaching out, having information, having resources to say, this is a place you could call. You could call the 800 number. You could call this organization that works with immigrants. You could go to the police. A victim of any crime in the United States is sheltered and shielded by victim laws and protected regardless of their status in the United States. So if as a victim you understand that resources are available, then, and someone gives you that information, you might be just able to do that.
In fact, if you're a victim, you may be able to get the papers you need to stay here legally.
There have been several visas that have been created.
Yes.
There's the T visa, which is
Trafficking.
that is commented on as trafficking, that was created in 2000, protecting individuals who are victims of human trafficking and help the prosecution of those that have committed the crimes.
And if I may add, I just want to let you know that sometimes the immigrants that are here don't even know the law here. They don't even know they're protected. So we have to bring that educational piece to them to allow them to speak on that.
We're almost out of time, but if you were talking to potential victims out there, what would you be telling them?
I think that I'll leave that to Nancy, but she's
Nancy,
the expert.
give us, you sum it up.
Well, that there are resources and protections available to anyone that is a victim of a crime, including human trafficking, sexual assault. There's a national hotline, which is 888-373-7888. My organization is the Westchester Hispanic Coalition. It's 914-948-8466. And although we are located in Westchester County, we are a recourse for information and referrals to any organization that we see necessary.
So they can call you, and if they're in a different neighborhood, you'll refer them to the right place.
Absolutely. New York City actually has a website. It's www.nyc.gov. and look up Human Trafficking Services Resources Guide for the 5 boroughs of the county.
Congratulations for the work that you're doing. It's a good thing that you guys are stepping up for this, because the community needs everybody to get involved, and I'm very, very happy to see Hispanic nurses doing what you're doing. I'm proud of you. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being on the program. It's a real pleasure having you.